All right, for this lesson I'm going to talk about the midpoint formula. The objective is I can use the midpoint formula to find the midpoint or a missing endpoint. I'm going to go ahead and have you draw a line segment here. Make point A at the bottom, and I want you to label it x1, y1. Up above, I'm going to call this point B, and I'll label it x2, y2. And the middle is the middle of this line, the midpoint, and I'm going to call it M. They don't always call it M, but I'm going to use M because it makes sense. And here's the formula. x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And really, all I'm doing when I'm adding these two x numbers together and dividing by 2 is I'm finding the average of my x values. And the same thing with my y's. I'm finding the average of my y values. Example 1. Find the midpoint of PQ with endpoints. P is negative 8, 3, and Q is negative 2, 7. So I'm going to go ahead and use the midpoint formula the first time. So I go ahead and copy my formula again. And then up above I have to determine which ones I want to be the x1, y1, which would be the red ones in this case, and which ones I want to be the x2, y2, which are the blue ones in this case. So I'm just going to choose the left ones to be the x1, y1, the right ones to be the x2, y2, and then I'm just very careful and I plug the appropriate number in the appropriate spot. So the first spot should be x1, which is negative 8. The second spot is x2, which is negative 2. And then y1 is 3, y2 is 7. And negative 8 minus 2 more is negative 10 divided by 2. 3 plus 7 is 10 divided by 2. And my final answer is negative 5, negative 5. Now, I'm also going to graph this to make sure it's right. So I'm going to go ahead and plot my points. And I like graphing if at all possible. If the numbers are too huge, I'm not going to waste my time. So here's P. Here's Q. I'm going to go ahead and connect the dots. The way I find this midpoint is a lot like slope. Okay, I'm going to try to rise and run and create a staircase to the middle. So just by eyeballing, I can see that's my middle, and it looks like it's, if I were to stair step it, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, and I've split that line segment in half. Example 2. Find the midpoint of ST with endpoints. S is negative 14, comma negative 6. And T is 20, comma 14. Now, this would be a scenario where I'm not going to waste my time graphing. I think those numbers are a little bit too big to put on a graph. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy down the formula again. Average of my x values, average of my y values. Again, these could be my x2, y2 if I wanted, but I'm choosing for them right here to be my x1, y1, the red ones. And that means over here on the right, they'll be the blues, the x2, y2. And then I'm just very careful that I plug the appropriate number in the appropriate spot. And down here I get 6 divided by 2 and 8 divided by 2. And my final answer is the midpoint is the coordinate point 3, 4. Example 3. This time I'm going to give you the midpoint. M is the midpoint of RT. And R is negative 6, negative 1, and M is negative 1, comma 1. Find T. So I'm not going to use my formula this time, and if at all possible, I'm going to try to graph this. So if the numbers are small enough, I recommend putting it on a graph. So here's R. Here's M. Now if I were to stair step this, I know I go up 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if I continue that stair step to the right, I know my answer is going to be somewhere over in this region here. And I stair step again, and there's T. And my final answer is the coordinate point 4, 3. And connect the dots, and it does look like it's in the middle. All right, example 4. M is the midpoint of EF. And E is the coordinate point 10, comma negative 2, or negative 12, excuse me. M is the coordinate point negative 2, 6. Find F. Now these numbers are a little bit too large to graph, and I wanted to show you a different method in case you didn't like the graphing method or you didn't have graph paper available. The first thing, again, I'm finding my average of my x values and the average of the y values. Well, I only really know one coordinate point here, and that's E, that I could plug in to the formula, and that's my x1, y1. Now, I would like to know what f is, but I don't know what it is, and these are what I'm looking for. So I'm going to give them some variables, just x and y. I don't really need the subset numbers. And now if I were to plug in the first portion, I know that my x value here, right here, plus the other x value right here, when I take the average of these, I know it should be equal to, up here, the x value of my midpoint. So down here I say equals -2. Now I'm going to split this in half, and I'm going to do the exact same thing for my y coordinates. -12 right here, plus the unknown for f. When I take the average divided by 2, it should be equal to my midpoint y value. Now I just have a little bit of algebra. I like to get rid of the big fat division line, so I don't like dividing by 2 right here. The opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2. If I do it to both sides, I get 10x, 10 plus x, equals -4, and now it's one-step algebra. Subtract 10 from both sides. My x coordinate is -14. Same algebra step to start over here on the right. The opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying both sides by 2. If I do it on the left, I have to do it on the right. I get -12 plus y equals 12. And now it's one-step algebra. Add 12 to both sides. And now looking back, my y coordinate is 24. My final answer, the endpoint f, is -14, 20, 24. And that would be a pretty hard number to graph, because it would have gone off the grid most likely if I were to graph it.